So today I wanted to talk about a concept that has taken the culture by storm, at least for the ladies, and that is girl math. Now, for those of you that are unaware of girl math, well, good for you because I cannot keep up with the trends as of late. But for those that need a reminder, girl math is essentially a loosely defined financial concept of sorts that women use to justify their extravagant spending habits. It's essentially, as I see it, the mental gymnastics that women especially will do to justify what was an impulse purchase or something that is just plain stupid that they didn't need. Examples of girl math could be buying more items to get free shipping, to saying that buying a very expensive item would lead to a certain amount of cost per wear that would then make the item either free or allow the individual to make money. Those are just two very simple examples. There are plenty more on Instagram and TikTok especially of the mental gymnastics that women will do to make the math. And while for many the girl math trend, as with many other female targeted trends like the girl dinners, the hot girl walks, etc., are designed to be light-hearted, sarcastic perhaps, and tongue-in-cheek, the question I want to pose today and want to discuss with you is, when does it go from being light-hearted and jokey to actually having real-world financial consequences? While some individuals will acknowledge that the girl math trend is a joke, there will be a certain percentage of the audience that believes that this is real and that they are justified in the delusions that they're creating to buy extortionate items because it's girl math. And for the luxury industry in particular, I'm seeing a lot more posts talking about girl math or handbag math that kind of inspired today's video, because while this is a kind of tongue-in-cheek trend, there are legitimate sources out there that are talking about girl math or handbag math that I think some people will actually take this to be gospel, that they can justify extravagant, extortionate prices and items. And so I'll just take you quickly through this Diamonds in Dubai carousel. I found it to be a very interesting take upon the recent news, at least, on the Chanel price increases, and it touches upon the girl math point and then also, I guess, the extortionate price of luxury, which I feel like, you know, given that I'm a luxury creator and consumer, I feel like these are very intertwined subjects that I think is worth to bring to everybody's attention today. So let's just quickly look at this particular article. And on the front that you can see, it's just saying, you know, have you ever applied a little bit of girl math to rationalize a purchase? And the way that they have, I guess, presented the argument for handbag math or girl math here is that depending on the size of handbag that you buy, you could be getting more handbag for your money. So if we just swipe through here and they talk about the Chanel classic flaps, of course, they've been in the press a lot recently for extortionate price increases. That's a subject that we've covered in another video already, so you can look at that. But essentially, the next slide says, is it worth buying another classic flap? How much are you paying per centimeter for your Chanel flat bag? Girl math does the math for you. And I mean, it's not really girl math here, it's just actual math of calculating what each of these sizes of classic flap would be if you were to calculate on a centimeter square basis. So I'm not going to drain it too much. You guys can pause the video, read it on screen. There's not much to it, but essentially it's going from the mini square flap, and that is 5.55 USD per centimeter. Then the mini rectangular is 6.88. Then we're gonna go to the small, it's 12.21. Then suddenly the medium goes down a little bit at 11.79. Then the jumbo is 8.39. And then finally we have the maxi at 7.6. The interesting slide is at the end where it talks about which flap offers the most bang for your buck. And the conclusion that they draw is the mini square flat bag and the maxi flat bag for their relatively lower price points of bag per square centimeter. I thought it was a very interesting way of looking at handbag purchases. I've literally never seen someone visualize buying a handbag with something as granular, I suppose, as getting the ruler and measuring. It's a very creative way of, you know, bringing back to reality the cost that you are actually paying for when it comes to a handbag. Then in another vein, I found it to be similar to like the cost per wear concept that a lot of people tout in the luxury community and wider life. I find it to be a little bit problematic and raising a few red flags that people are willing to go through the, I guess, mental or mathematical gymnastics to break things down in such a granular way, such that people will then use these mechanisms to justify what are already obviously extravagant purchases like that of a classic flap. By the nature of the luxury industry, in this specific example, the classic flaps are not made to be value for money. We all know, if we've watched like a Tanner Leatherstein video, or if we know anything about the fashion industry, that these brands are making a killing when it comes to margins, that these bags probably cost around $200 to $300 to make one classic flap. Obviously we're paying for, therefore, the name, the notoriety, the, I suppose, fact that it is a trophy in societal standards to have an item as valuable and as sought after as a classic flap or equivalent, say, from Hermes. So by the nature of doing handbag math, I can't help but feel that it defeats, first of all, the purpose of luxury, because luxury is something by nature that not many people can have. So by doing that, it either implies that you're not from that target audience, or that you don't have that money, and therefore it is a frivolous purchase or a purchase that you cannot actually afford. It's also problematic because there are distinct outlets and individuals that are clearly promoting this spending on items that is just impulse purchases. Let's just say it how it is. There's a kind of seedy kind of undertone of brands kind of clout jacking on the girl math trend to justify spending items either at their establishment or to sustain a certain lifestyle, which in a recessionary environment that we are in today is, I feel, very dangerous, especially for young, impressionable female audiences. And I feel like they are kind of leveraging upon the fact that women, as a general rule, there are exceptions, but as a general rule, are more likely to impulse purchase and to use emotion over reason and rationality. You can think it's controversial if you like, but clearly the idea that there is girl math and not necessarily this math applies to men is telling of the fact that our brains are wired differently and our spending habits are different. The fact that the purchasing power of women is estimated to generate, I believe, $5 billion alone in economic impact in 2023. The fact that fashion industries are targeted at women, it's therefore no surprise to come to this conclusion that they are almost justifying or promoting these delusions so that you do what they want you to do, which is to spend your hard-earned money on their items or their lifestyle. So even though a trend like girl math is rising in popularity and it's poking fun at how women are seemingly irresponsible at spending, I feel like it's also promoting and enabling this irresponsible spending. Is probably glamorizing it as well to some, and it's also allowing brands and individuals to kind of clout jack on these emotional reactions to spending to allow women to think it's okay to spend like this and to continue spending with them. Perhaps I'm not going to pretend like I've not been guilty of making the mental gymnastics work to justify purchase. When I've purchased my classic flat, my most recent navy one, I thought I was getting more value for money for that particular bag when presented with options of a smaller one or a medium one. I believed, oh, it's just an extra £200, I'll get more bang for my money and more use out of it because I'll be able to fit more, etc. But in reality, the pricing of luxury items, especially as it pertains to the classic flap example, clearly has nothing to do with making more savings as you graduate in the sizes of bags. There is literally no rhyme or reasoning, as the Diamonds in Dubai article clearly showed with their maths, that bigger the bag, the more bag that you'll get for your money. Chanel's not pricing based on what is actually equitable in terms of how much they make their bag for and then a small margin. They are making margins of like probably 300 or 400% at this stage, especially after expenses. So clearly buying a Chanel bag or any luxury item is by the very definition not to be for those individuals who have to count the pennies or have to justify their purchases. It's for people who can literally, without batting an eyelid, drop 10k on bags and shoes and otherwise, because the value is inherently the intangible status symbol, the reputation, and I suppose being a societal marker, as opposed to the financial value the masses are doing the girl math to justify, getting something from cost per wear, or getting something after 1,000 wears is going to be, making money or having the item basically bought for free. If you're having to do that to justify a luxury item and justify a luxury purpose, not only are you deluding yourself, but you probably cannot afford the item. And also you probably should take a look at yourself in the mirror, actually admit to yourself what you are doing is buying something for the impulse, for the flex, or just because you want it. And I don't think there's any shame with doing that. What I do believe is shameful is deluding yourself and others that you are buying something with an underlying financially responsible motive when that clearly is not the case. And I have felt like this about the cost per wear concept because, you know, a lot of people say, you know, if I buy a handbag that is £1,000, if I wear it, you know, 1,000 times, it's just £1 per wear. When it's not like you're actually taking a loan to pay £1 per installment, you're paying outright for this item, which by the way is unrealistic because humans are inherently, you know, not robotic. And are you going to hold yourself to the 1,000 wears? I don't think many people do when it comes to this concept. So you are just deluding yourself by the fact that you have paid an upfront cost of an item, but you're pretending like you're not. And that is problematic because I think this potentially encourages, especially in the days of accessible credit, like with Klarna, like with Afterpay, a delusional mindset around finances that you don't actually have to actually acknowledge your financial responsibilities, because it sounds a lot better to say you're paying £1 per wear than to say you're paying £1,000. I just think that that is a very slippery slope when it comes to financial management, especially for individuals who are just entering luxury and are enamored with the lifestyle. If you cannot afford it and you're doing cost per wear, inherently that defeats the purpose of luxury because you're not worried about cost per wear. And the fact that this is a trend of basically justifying delusions to basically mask financial literacy or to enable terrible decision making, this is quite worrisome and probably, I guess, symptomatic of our culture today, where everything is done for superficial natures, everything is done for optics, and we are allowing people to live in delusions as opposed to reality and face the actual decisions that they make when it comes to finances and also the consequences. And I just think it's also, as another side thought, quite ironic that people can, in one vein, on one hand, complain about the cost of living crisis, complain about inflation, complain about all these things, but then in another vein, they will spend $50 extra to get free shipping on a certain order, or they will literally do cost per wear to buy and justify an Hermes handbag or something. Like, it just seems incongruent. And the fact that people won't just stand by their purchases by just saying, I wanted to spend this money, even if it's a bad spend of money, to actually be accountable for your decisions is more respectable, and it's more open and honest and transparent to yourself and to others than by using girl math to dress up reckless spending. Because I feel like at the moment we're all very much conditioned to, especially as women, justify the things that we want, which we should definitely stop doing, because ultimately it is no one else's business to justify your own money and your own spending and lifestyle to others. But what I think is quite dangerous with girl math is that it starts off really cute with, you know, getting a few free shipping on items, or, you know, if you buy a hair curler that's super expensive, but, you know, every strand of your hair, you know, if you're curling that individually and each hair curling costs this much, you're going to get it for free, essentially. You know, it starts off cute like that, and then it snowballs into something that is less cute and is more around bailiffs are coming kind of thing. Because if you're having to use girl math or make elaborate excuses for why you need an item, it means you probably shouldn't buy it, or that you can't afford it. And I think that's ultimately the takeaway. And I think in this community as the luxury one, where, you know, people are always unboxing the next thing and they're always talking about the items on their wish list, I think it's very easy to feel maybe envious, or perhaps maybe you think it's aspirational to try and get yourself to that stage as soon as possible, but you have no idea what people are doing to justify their finances. Yes, I accept a lot of people will come at me and say, you know, Mel, this is just for tongue in cheek. I get that. As with every other TikTok trend, it is a trend, it will go. But I think the ethos of it is quite dangerous, especially for young impressionable women in particular, or in fact just the next generations. And I think the Diamonds in Dubai article, when it comes to classic flaps, I mean, it just exemplified to me that mental gymnastics that people will go to justify something, even though the suggestion was that the mini flap and the maxi flap were the best value for money. The takeaway is actually none of those bags are value for money. And I'm by no means saying I'm exempt from it, because clearly I like luxury, so I'm not going to try and be a hypocrite or something like that. But, you know, I bought those items a few years ago, back when the prices weren't as horrendous, but they were still bad. And I just said to myself, you know what, I want this item, so what, I'm going to buy it, and that's that. And I didn't try and delude myself around maybe resale value or cost per wear or whatever, because I had to pay up front to the store £6,000 or £7,000, and you have to live with the consequences of it. And you know, there are always excuses that people tell ourselves to make us feel better, but the hard truth of it is that you just dropped an extortionate amount of money for something. You better like the item, you better be doing it for yourself, you better be doing it for the right reasons, you better be financially responsible. And I just think it is a very cautionary tale, I think, of what maybe is to come with the next few generations around money management. And to me as a creator, it very much illuminated the fact that you can justify anything so long as you message it a certain way to the right people. That is everything that I wanted to cover in today's video. I would love to know your thoughts about the girl math trend, or perhaps even cost per wear and all of that stuff. But I will leave this video here. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.